What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulWrestling.com. Go over to FightfulWrestling.com. We have a great news team. Joe Holbert covering Raw, major events, doing a lot of columns. We have Ryan Cook covering a lot of TV shows. Andrew Thompson and Jeremy Lambert bringing you the news. I'm all over the place, doing a little bit of everything. But tonight, we are joined by one Alex Pawlowski. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Smackdown is actually listening to the fans. It's what they should have said is like, okay, Raw is going to be the same, but SmackDown is going to be brand new, awesome stuff. Listening to the fans. So just watch Tuesdays. Cool.
Yes. So Fightful.com listens to the fans, and one of our points in doing so was Jimmy Van. Before we doubled our subscriber base over like 2 months on Fightful Select, he said, hey, if we get to this goal, 100, I'll sing Stephanie McMahon's entrance theme. It is now up on Fightful Select. It'll air on Listen You Boy Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, which leads us, we're dropping the Fightful mixtape this week, Alex. Big things happening. And also big things happening at Select. This week alone, we have the NXT 205 Live UK review. Programming note that will be a day late. Warren has some prior obligations. We have the Weekender this weekend with Steven Jensen. Check that out. Also, I've got 2 shows this week. The Q&A show. Go there and subscribe. Ask me as many questions as you want. I was trying to time that out to where I wouldn't get a bunch of questions about things that would already be answered by the time it releases. But considering, Alex, that every show this week is supposed to have a major announcement,
yeah,
it's going to be hard for me to do. But I also have the Fightful Report podcast, exclusive news, injury reports, contract updates. Fightful Select is the most direct way to support us. Oh, by the way, I'm posting news up there all the time. Mentioned this afternoon that Asuka would be back on TV tonight. And I before I posted it on Twitter, I had the Tommaso Ciampa injury update. But let's go ahead and get into it. And as things get announced on 205 Live or whatever it may be, Alex and I will cover that towards the end of the show too. So this is going to be a packed show. We're going to have some speculation running rampant as well. But man, there's just so much to get into. So let's go ahead and do it. SmackDown Live, February 19th. Kicked off with Shane McMahon coming out and awkwardly bringing up the call-ups are going to be on tonight. He's like, I know you liked Johnny Gargano's debut last night, Alex. And the crowd goes, yeah. And he goes, and Aleister Black and Ciampa and Ricochet. I was like, what? Okay.
I don't know. This is the thing that makes me think. I mean, last couple of nights has been this too. Like, I thought the whole storyline on NXT was, will Johnny and Tommaso actually get back together? Are they friends now? Or is there just like, do they respect each other because they're both champs? Tommaso's trying to get Johnny to cross over to the dark side. Will he or won't he? And on the main roster, it's like, they're friends. Boom, DIY. And it's like, does that transition to the NXT tapings that are coming up? Or is it just 2 completely different alternate realities? Let's see.
Well, we can tie all this in, and apparently Drake Maverick has just made the announcement. It will be a tournament to determine Buddy Murphy's challenger at WrestleMania, which means a whole lot of people are getting left off WrestleMania, unless they put these people in the Battle Royal, which I don't think they did last year, did they?
No, I don't. They may have put one in there too. I mean, come on. It's like the 3rd year you've had a Mania for 205 Live, and you still haven't done the multi-man ladder match?
That's right.
Staring you in the face.
If there's one thing that I learned from that Fightful Books It show on Fightful Select, subscribe now. When we booked WrestleMania 35, of course, ahead of these call-ups, it's that, man, that ladder match, as things stand right now, probably it could apply to 3 or 4 different matches. U.S. title, maybe the Intercontinental title, probably the SmackDown Live tag titles because there's so many teams. I think it just makes too much sense to do that, especially, I often mention how 205 Live is a commercial or the Cruiserweight title match is a commercial for 205 Live. If you put a ladder match on the pre-show, you might get some people that are like watching on YouTube and going, oh, I got to order this. I got to check this out. So let's go ahead and tie this in. What do brands mean? What do call-ups mean? Because right now, EC3, Lacey Evans, Otis, Tucker, Nikki Cross, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Ricochet, and Aleister Black are all undefined. Also, Sasha Banks and Bayley also sort of undefined, as they will defend their titles across everything. So we have like 10 people. This usually I don't like to run with rampant speculation, but I had somebody say, well, could this lead to an NXT invasion? And I said, you know what? I could think of far worse ideas. And the groundwork has been laid with Vince McMahon kind of going against Triple H and Stephanie in the Becky Lynch thing. We might as well talk NXT stuff right now. The announcement. I think we can wrap it all up into one. What do you think's going on, and what do you think's going to happen tomorrow? Again, not a report. This is speculation.
Right. There's a lot of things that I think are possible. The most obvious one, but it feels like it's really early to do it, is that when SmackDown moves to Fridays on Fox, NXT will start broadcasting at some point on FS1 or something like that. Like giving Fox their money's worth for that as well. And giving a home on cable TV to NXT, which deserves it. Or
FS1 seems a good home for them.
Yeah, sure. Or it could be a thing of, we're the other touring brand. So we're actually going to do a major, a basketball arena like, Raw and SmackDown does. We're going to do one of those a month, and it's going to be live, something like that. I mean, I don't know, but like starting to figure out how big NXT is. You mentioned an NXT invasion. The thing that makes me salivate at the thought of that is there's so many people on the main roster now who are call-ups from the past 2 years or so. And where do their allegiances lie, Sean Ross Sapp? Are they actually really main roster guys, or do they really have more ties to NXT and the place that gave them all that love? And do they have more loyalties there? There's if they decided to go that way, there are limitless possibilities with the stories they could tell there, which makes me think, nah, they're going to play it safe and do something else.
Well, that's quite frankly what we see a lot. And I hate to throw around the accusations, but a lot of times it's freaking lazy, man.
Yeah.
And maybe not because they want to be, but maybe because Vince scraps everything at the last minute. I mean, for the love of God, he didn't know until a couple hours before the show what was going to headline his pay-per-view the other day. Or he knew, but it wasn't set in stone. So to me, I got to reiterate this because now I got people photoshopping tweets on Facebook. I am not reporting anything. This is my speculation.
Yeah.
Any website that aggregates this are dumbasses.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots. Pardon my French. What I would see as a best case scenario for all involved, and I mean all involved, if SmackDown goes to Friday in October, you already have MLW moving to Saturday. That's already done. They're out of that way. You've got WOW and New Japan on Friday. Who knows if they'll want to hang around there, or maybe they'll push that to where SmackDown ends and then their block starts. But if NXT ended up on Tuesday, that would make way for AEW on Wednesdays, because a lot of people say, well, if they're negotiating with Turner's not going to give up NBA. Well, they can on Wednesdays. I believe Tuesday, Thursday are their NBA nights, right?
That's true.
Because they 100% will not give up the NBA.
No. Why would?
Although I would love Charles Barkley and Shaq breaking down All Elite Wrestling. I am here for that. And who he play for?
Yeah,
for wrestlers, give me that. I want that.
Shaq and a Fool is just like the new Botchamania. Yes,
that would be really, really good.
Yeah.
But I think that would be pretty wild. I mean, it wouldn't be good for me because if something happens and NXT ends up going live, obviously that's a show that we will be covering,
right?
With a live post show. Live changes a lot. Live changes the amount of people that actually tune into it live, and it's not even close when we're doing it. Like at the former site that I worked for, there was never even a request to do a SmackDown post-show podcast.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't even start going live until recently. Not throwing shade, just saying that's the difference in how live and taped and that stigma can go. But man, there's a lot of things on the table, and I'll tell you this. The NXT people I talk to don't know what it is right now.
Well, I mean, it's good that they're actually, keeping it close to the vest, which makes me think it's, something pretty large. You don't want to do this whole, what could it possibly be for 24 hours plus and have it come out and be like, womp womp, it's got to be something big. But you're right. I mean, if this actually turns out to be the third brand, and we can have, as we've requested, people to move back and forth, especially since you're talking about having the women's tag titles defended across all three brands. There's the possibility for that right there. But there are certain people who've been called up for whom it just didn't work on the main roster for whatever reason. If the main roster now also includes basically NXT, but it's a whole different vibe down there. There's a whole different way that you could actually have people just shunt back and forth and not worry about it. Like,
it has to be what NXT is and not what ECW became.
Right. No, 1000%. You can't. No, it's got to be NXT. NXT as NXT needs to say what it is, even if they move it to some other time slot or place to watch it.
I mean, it's wild. I mean, obviously they have the talent. Alex, I do a thing on Fightful Select. I know it seems like I've done a lot of plugs, but I do a thing after every pay-per-view, and it's called The Leftovers, and I book a show based on who wasn't on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Elimination Chamber, no Andrade, no Rey Mysterio, no EC3, no Revival, no Kurt Angle, no Dean Ambrose, United States Champion R-Truth. Asuka wasn't on it.
No Rusev, no
Rusev, no Nakamura, Good Brothers, The Bar, Sanity. None of those people were on the show.
Nope.
You can make a decent card out of what's there. Oh, plus, by the way, that doesn't factor in the 4 NXT guys that just got brought up. That doesn't include who has been sidelined with an injury.
Yeah.
Like, we're out of commission. You've got guys that are sitting on the sidelines right now. Roman Reigns is not an active roster member right now.
Nope.
Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, they're not factored into that yet. We're talking about all these people that were left off that Elimination Chamber show, and I'm not bitching about it. I'm just saying that show was fine the other night. I really liked Elimination Chamber. I had a blast covering it. It didn't feel like too long. It didn't.
Nope.
It didn't feel like it just dragged on and just took forever. But you're talking about 4 new names coming up. What happens when Roman Reigns comes back? How about Sami Zayn? How about Kevin Owens? That's Bray Wyatt is still out there. Ember Moon is out with an injury. Triple H has got to get shoehorned in somewhere at some points. Mustafa Ali, by the way, came in with a big push. He's out. You got a lot of stuff going on right now. So
yeah, there is an embarrassment of riches of all these people. I was saying that if these top 4 guys from NXT are truly being brought up to the main roster to stay, can we send EC3 back? Do we keep the receipt so we can return him to the store? Because that place where we brought him from, they allow him to talk, and there's kind of a void at the top. Now, you can say that can get filled by any number of people. Riddle, Keith Lee, Kushida's going to be there soon. All the people can fill the void, but EC3 is a name that everyone knows at NXT and was just starting to get some momentum, and they were like, oh, we're bringing you up. By the way, you don't get to talk, and we're not going to use you ever. But, oh, by the way, also, you're going to have a 50-50 booking with Dean Ambrose, who is then, after he pins you the next week, going to get squashed by Drew McIntyre. And then we're not going to see you on that episode. If you're going to bring these guys up, you cannot do to Ricochet and Aleister Black what you have done to EC3. It's not allowed. Yeah. I'm not going to stand for it.
By the way, guys, if you all want a full update of that injury list, I do cover it on the Fightful Report podcast. But under our resources section, I do keep an updated list. Myself, Jeremy, and Andrew update it daily. We keep contract updates, rumor updates. A lot of those contract and injury articles that you see elsewhere, they just pick off our list. And like I said, we update that daily. So click that resources section, check it out. So I guess we can actually talk about SmackDown now. Shane McMahon comes out. He brings up those call-ups. The Miz comes out and he cuts a really good promo. Says that Shane McMahon, that he used Shane McMahon. And then Shane McMahon brought out his dad. There was a lot of real genuine emotion here, or at least it seemed so. Maybe it wasn't genuine emotion, but damn it, Miz made me believe. He sold me a ticket on it, Alex.
Yeah.
So I thought he did really great here. And he says, I know there's no rematch clause anymore, but if anybody can make it happen, you can make it happen. And asks Shane McMahon to do that. The Usos come out and cut a really good promo. Got the crowd behind them. And then on the other side of them, like the snap of their fingers, they really commanded that crowd, Alex.
Yeah, no, this was great. The Usos are great. I like how they walk that wire between face and heel. It all depends on who they're facing and what they're saying in their promo. I thought it was a little unnecessarily harsh on the Miz. He's not a joke anymore, guys. We've kind of proven that over the course of this past couple of years. And to use that whole thing on him that he's this joke and a loser, I understand they're just, they're trash talking him. But it kind of, after this guy comes out and he says, my dad told me he loved me for the first time. By the way, I need to go back and watch all episodes of Miz and Mrs. to see if his dad ever tells him he loves him, like on video.
Did you ever see like where his dad's at a party and legitimately like his dad's talking to Miz's friends about wrestling and he goes, yeah, The Rock's my favorite. Always has been, always will be. And Miz is standing right there and he's like, oh, okay. And you can tell that's something that was just kind of picked up in the midst of a party. That wasn't like a USA Network.
Love it.
Say that. It was. Although I am ready for the return of Marjo Mania on Miz and Mrs. I am all about it. Usos were really great here. I was fortunate enough to get some insight from Anna Bauer during this broadcast, and she said that she was particularly happy about, you do not respect my partner like that, you dig? By a 50-year-old Shane McMahon. He confirms the rematch will happen at Fastlane.
Which is in Miz's hometown of Cleveland.
Yes.
Which I love that they're going to have Miz's dad is going to be at ringside. All sorts of wonderful storytelling possibilities there. We'll see. I think the smart money is still on Miz versus McMahon. Miz versus Shane at Mania.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they get there from this. But if not, I'm fine with these guys being wholesome for a while.
Yeah, later on, Miz sees Shane McMahon backstage and confirms that his dad will be there. We had Aleister Black against Andrade, which prompted Anna to tell me, I do love that Aleister Black gets a debut on SmackDown with his wife at ringside, even if she is yelling profanities at him in Spanish, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah.
Good work, as expected, between these two. Almas is the right person to be taking this offense from Aleister Black.
Yeah, this is a weird scene of the crime thing, kind of a deal. Like these guys back in the same arena where they fought each other at the Mania Takeover last year. That's awesome.
There's a lot of callbacks like that on this show, including one we'll get to later. Black gets dumped over the top rope, hits a really great Meteora. Andrade does the double knees in the corner himself. Black Mass lands, but it was not one of his best. His technique wasn't there, and usually he's very, very good at it. And it kind of lands on Andrade's chest. He wins. It was a solid match, but not really enough to be memorable. The spots were fine, but not a lot to this. But I would love to see them get the opportunity to go 15-20.
Yes. I mean, these guys worked really great when they're in NXT together. This was not their best work. And while it was cool to see like a rematch, in the same building, considering what we got later, maybe a first time ever thing between Ricochet and Andrade might have been a different way to go, like to use that in a different way, because those two guys never got a chance to really cross paths. Ricochet was just starting as Andrade was leaving. And I always love the overlap of NXT where one guy wasn't high enough on the totem pole to face the outgoing champ, but now he's been champ and now they're both on the main roster. I always like seeing when that happens. So maybe we'll get to see some Ricochet versus Andrade somewhere down the line.
Somebody in the live chat here on YouTube, youtube.com/Fightful, says, Sean, what are you watching? I am watching a late night Kentucky basketball game. Go Big Blue. And let me tell you guys, if you want to be ready late night, Big Blue can help you out too. Our friends at Blue Chew will get you going. Full court press? I think so. Drive the lane? Oh, yeah. Slam it home? I think so. I think so. It's as easy as a free throw with BlueChew.com. Brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. So you know they work, but they're better, they're cheaper, they're faster. You know what? If you don't get paid to play, not that there's anything wrong with that, not here to judge, you can still afford this. And people, by the time you're done playing, they'll be like, damn, you probably should get paid for this. But Fightful and Blue Chew are bringing it right to you. It's prescribed online, shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. No in-person doctor visit, no waiting at the pharmacy, no more awkwardness. You can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. They're made in the USA. And since Blue Chew ships and prepares direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Use that code FIGHTFUL. Let them know that you heard about them from us at Get Blue Chew, and you can get it for free. Just use that code FIGHTFUL. Shattering backboards all night long, Alex.
I'll have to take your word for it, I guess.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
DIY are watching this match backstage. Then they are approached by the bar. They cut like a little goofy promo, kind of. I thought it was an okay promo.
Yeah, no, it's fine. When you have like these really established guys on the main roster interacting and trash talking with the new guys coming up from NXT. And the thing about this is really interesting is that these NXT guys are being brought up are being treated as equals to just below the top guys on the main roster. That says something, because usually it's like, you got to earn your stripes, kid. We're going to have you debut in a squash match versus some jobber, and then we won't see you for 6 months. I like what this is signifying.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, DIY and the bar faced off. This is really hard hitting. Fortunately, the bar are more than capable of keeping up with these guys in the ring. There was a particularly funny spot where Ciampa jumps out onto Cesaro and they take out a cameraman. And Cesaro was able to save it with a backbreaker. Do you remember the little bump that was taken by the cameraman at the Royal Rumble?
I do.
I'm told he got a concussion.
Yikes.
Yeah,
well, he tripped over the little stuff was hanging out on the sides of the ramp. If he knocked his head on another one of those as he was falling back, absolutely he'd get one of those.
This is among the greatest era ever of cameraman wipeouts that I've seen. Shout out to Joseph Farley for the super chat. Much appreciated the donation. Not a funny spot was Sheamus landing on Ciampa's knee on a sunset flip powerbomb. Immediately, the ref throws up the X for Ciampa, I'm told. Terrible news. Also, because Sheamus has stenosis and he's landing like that. That's not good. I'm told that backstage, Ciampa said he was okay. Sheamus said he was okay. Now, I'm not saying 100% Ciampa is okay. I'm saying that he said he was okay. And initial reactions are that he's okay. You got to remember, this is the same guy.
Yep.
The same Tommaso Ciampa who I was at the live event in Highland Heights, tore up his knee. 2 nights later, he worked a full main event. Was out 9 months, Alex.
Yeah. When I saw the footage of that, when I saw him lay that wrong, I was like, no, not in an exhibition. I mean, if it really is an exhibition match and these guys are planned to be called up like after Mania, but for now they're still working in NXT and he's the damn champion. Like, what a terrible break it would be for him. Also, for Sheamus, but for Ciampa, I mean, that's just ridiculous because it's the other knee too. Like, that's horrible news if that's the case. And I thought to myself, when he got up and was still part of the match after that, like he saved Gargano and everything, I thought to myself, oh, like he got the pin. I thought to myself, oh, he's fine. And then I remembered, oh no, wait, this is Tommaso Ciampa, who will wrestle through like his arm hanging off.
Oh, sure.
Skin, you know what I mean?
I mean, he's the guy. The first time I ever talked to Tommaso Ciampa, we were kind of going back and forth. He wasn't happy about a story that I had aggregated about a reported knee injury that I think it was a knee injury that he had sustained before he got signed.
Yeah.
And he felt that report was malicious because he was obviously trying to get signed. I had a conversation with him about that, and it kind of changed my approach on reporting injuries. Not so much clearances as it changed my approach on reporting injuries and how that could affect people's livelihoods and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, to me, from the outside looking in, a very similar situation where he's being called up, may have had something happen, and why would he want to let anybody know? That, I'm sure that's a giant pay bump. It's a giant career change for him. It's a lot.
Yeah. But, no, I wish him and Sheamus the best and hope that they're okay.
Yeah. Glad to hear that as well. But they didn't slow down at all. No. This did not affect them at all. You got, I want to say 3 pros. Ciampa, obviously, but Ciampa hopped right back in. But Sheamus, Cesaro, Gargano, they did not miss a beat, Alex.
Not a beat. It was, listen, I mean, Gargano and Ciampa have been around the block many hundreds of times. They know what it is. They're ready. The thing is that, I mean, I always felt like those were 2 guys that Vince just never would have touched. You know, they're little, but they're not like cruiserweight little. They're like guys who wrestle, and they'll wrestle anybody, but they're not luchadors. So to him, if you're not jumping and doing flips, but you're tiny, what good are you? Like, I've always felt like that's been his point of view. So I would not have been surprised to see them stay on NXT for a very long time. But the fact that they're being brought up right now, you can tell these guys are absolute technical wizards. They know exactly what they're doing. They know how to wrestle a match. And they proved it against these 2 guys, against a former world champion and a former probably should have been world champion.
So Gargano just goes crazy. The Bar get this awesome backbreaker knee drop after a Gargano escape, and you see Ciampa fly in, and you think, thank the Lord.
Yeah, thank God he's okay.
But, well, and that's the thing. When I saw that, I said, oh, God. I thought, man, he's batshit crazy. He really doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
But then he flipped in and did the pin, and I was like, all right, that's a very good sign.
That's a very good sign, yeah.
We have a super chat question. By the way, I'll start doing that, guys. We'll answer questions if you submit a super chat or donation. Do you see DIY versus the Usos at Mania for the titles? Man, I could go for one of that.
I could go for that too. I could go for a lot of different things. It all depends on what they're doing. You know, what they're doing. You know, obviously, Johnny is scheduled to defend his North American Championship tomorrow. Somebody made a very clever joke on Twitter that right now Morrow and Nigel and Percy are in a studio somewhere doing voiceover saying, these guys appeared on Raw and SmackDown this week, so they could actually add it into the thing that was taped a month ago. So we'll see how they address this new speculation of these guys leaving on the show that they're actually currently still on.
Yeah. Here's to hoping that Ciampa and Sheamus both truly are okay. Definitely hope so. Asuka is out next. We reported that she would be on the show on FightfulSelect.com. Subscribe now. She's ready for her next challenge and is greeted by Mandy Rose and Sonya. Based on the direction that we saw tonight, and I'm not talking about Mandy Rose, I'm talking about the other stuff. Man, that's rough. That's weird. Lacey Evans comes out and distracts Asuka, Alex. Now, there are rumors and rumblings that there was a push for Lacey Evans to get a spot at Fastlane or WrestleMania facing Asuka. Unless it's the squash match, that don't need to happen.
No. I've said since she's been called up, I think she'll be a great hand doing good character work, and she never needs to get a title shot. And unless she dramatically improves. And we've seen that happen with people like Carmella, who came up and you would think, why is she being brought up to main roster? And she's been a former champion, and deservedly so by this point.
Sure.
So we'll see where she goes. But when she got brought up, I was like, you got to keep her as far away from the top of women's division as possible, while also making the women that beat her look great.
In the Fightful Books It podcast, I posted the card that myself and Jason set up. And I'm like, if you don't have anybody, I would legitimately have Asuka come out and say, how about everybody? And then she defends it in the Battle Royal and wins.
Yeah.
And retains the title. Lacey Evans, if there's a push for anything, there should be a push for her to work Asuka and or Sonya Deville on the live event scene.
Sure.
Because if you all have ever heard my criticisms of Lacey Evans, a lot of her problems were instinctual that I saw in the ring, not going for pins or submissions when they're right there. And that's something she could learn from both of them. She distracts Asuka, who gets like super upset that Mandy Rose would dare capitalize on such a thing. It was so weird how that was perpetrated on commentary, but Asuka lit up Mandy with some strikes after some real good offense from Mandy. The comparisons between Eva Marie and Mandy Rose, that shit's got to stop.
Yeah.
This is not the same. Mandy Rose is just fine, bordering on good. Her offense looks real nice. That bicycle knee is awesome. I love the gut wrench slam. However, you had mentioned on Twitter that the eye injury that Mandy Rose had, she got hit with a pop-up knee, sold that eye incredibly, and you said, well, that is on key with Asuka's character to be so stupid in the ring that she gets beaten because she fell for Ellsworth. That's right. I mean, if they integrate that in a storyline, I am far more okay with that than...
Yeah. I mean, but I don't think they're doing that. This is the thing, is the problem is that you have Asuka, who hasn't been on TV. Correct me if I'm wrong. She, live on SmackDown, has not been there since she since she tapped out Becky Lynch, who is the hottest thing in wrestling. Asuka's been gone since then. She comes back on, and she loses because she gets distracted by somebody faking an eye injury. And walks into being thrown into the middle rope and then rolled up. Like that, those two things don't make sense to me together. Like, this woman she's better than the best thing you have in the company. She proved it the last time she wrestled, and now she's like, whoopsie daisy, I lost. There's got to be some middle ground in between those two things, because as you said, that's not Mandy cheating. Mandy didn't put a thumb in Asuka's eye to win. She didn't she didn't do anything. She didn't cheat. She was smart, and Asuka was stupid. And I don't need Asuka, who's got several decades in this business over Mandy Rose, to be stupid enough to be tricked by Mandy Rose into losing. Like, there's got to be some other way you can figure out how to do this, I think.
Yeah. And maybe that's something that can be brought up, like, oh, your undefeated streak was against a bunch of rookies, yada, yada. They didn't capitalize on stuff like this. If they want Asuka to get cheered, I don't know that making her a moron is the way to do it.
Yeah, there's so many things you could do, especially if you have. My thought was, this is a great way for Asuka over the next month to prove there is nobody on SmackDown who is ready for Asuka. Have her beat everybody, one a week. Have her get pushed by the likes of Naomi and Sonya and Carmella if you want, but she beats them all to prove there's nobody who can face her. And then you have, in a one-off, have Kairi Sane come out and say, "I know you. Let's have a match," and do an amazing exhibition for those two in the first hour of Mania. Like, just have them. I
don't think they'll do that. Nobody knows who Kairi Sane is. Nobody.
The NXT people do. They made her. The NXT fans made her.
There's going to be 70,000 people at WrestleMania, and like that's not. If we learned anything from yesterday, it's that doesn't always work out.
The crowd tonight is a New Orleans crowd who knows they've reacted differently to these guys. I'm saying
they were on Raw last night too,
right? On Raw, but I'm saying in Lafayette, where they don't watch NXT. In New Orleans, a lot of people who are watching tonight, who were in the arena tonight, were probably at NXT Takeover in New Orleans. Like, there is that crossover. I just think there's more imaginative things you could do than, whoopsie daisy, you tricked me and I lost because I'm not a very smart person. You know,
of course, there's a lot of stuff. I just don't think hot-shotting an NXT name right up. And I mean, it seems like they're ready to go with the Kairi Io as a tag team thing, and there's really no reason to mention
it could be anybody. It just doesn't need to be. What I'm saying is, what they're doing right now, that's not it. Do something else.
Yeah, for sure. Ricochet defeated Eric Young with Sanity. Here's a nice stat. This was Eric Young's first singles match in WWE since July. He had actually won both of his singles matches on SmackDown. His last main roster televised singles loss was to Sean O'Hare in 2003 in November when he worked an enhancement match. Wow. But he's still around. This is not a showcase for Ricochet, as you'd imagine. He sells through most of this before making a comeback and going through his spots. He gets a standing star press, does a Fosbury flop onto Sanity, and gets a win with a 630. This was surprisingly paint by numbers for me. I think what you shouldn't do is have Ricochet do the same things every match because it makes it less impressive for him and way less impressive for everybody else who can't do that.
Yeah, that's you got to figure out how to make this work. I mean, if last night and tonight were exhibitions and getting us a taste of who these guys are, either to advertise that, hey, these guys are going to be on FS1 in the fall, so watch, or we're going to bring them up after Mania, so we'll get you a taste of what they are, so now you know who they are when they come up. If that's what it is, you can do, again, something better than this. I mean, you're always really good at this. When was the last time Sanity was on TV?
Been a long-ass time. I think the last match that Eric Young had on TV was the Survivor Series kickoff show.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long-ass time. That's 4
and as we found out, that doesn't count, so let's go back to, like, September.
Right. So what is it, June? Like, when's the last time on SmackDown these guys wrestled? The idea that they were like, ooh, Ricochet fighting Eric Young, the leader of Sanity, and you could be forgiven if you had been wrestling, if you've been watching SmackDown for 6 months of going, who? I haven't missed an episode of SmackDown in 6 months. Who? Like, you got to figure, I mean, I love Sanity. They should be on TV, but they're not. So you can't sell me Ricochet by having him beat a guy that is never on TV. There's got to be a different way of doing it.
When I look and see that, and we complain about the creative a lot because it's not consistent.
Right.
Monday Night Raw just bold, italics, underscore, and then highlighted all of it.
Yeah.
Like, what we did last night didn't really matter that much throughout a lot of this card. Then there are situations like how they have pivoted, and we were talking off the air, like Mustafa Ali was meant for a showcase and was meant for a nice run in the Elimination Chamber. He was not meant for what has happened over the last 8 days.
No.
But WWE has pivoted accordingly, and this is what you and I have talked about. I mentioned sometimes almost the 1984 to 1988 method of booking where you almost book to appease the crowd a little bit. Like we've said, money's in the bank. It's on the way. The check's done.
Yeah.
So why not do the thing? And I'm not talking like give babyface victories nonstop, but do things that are creatively satisfying. See it out. But if it doesn't work out, pivot and change. I mean, my God, they recognize the Becky Lynch thing and have beautifully crafted a Becky Lynch scenario where, you know, not without its flaws as any storyline will be, but that they have her ready for a main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They did that.
And honestly, I do not know what happens if Becky makes it out of that ring during the Raw invasion unscathed.
Yeah.
Does that weekend, does she tap out clean to Ronda Rousey? That's certainly possible.
They had to have some happy accidents along the way to even get it right.
Like they could have just nerfed Becky's momentum at that moment, and then who knows what would have happened after that. Now she may have ended the match basically the way Charlotte did by wailing on Ronda with a chair with a cane, and then we would have gotten something out of it. We don't know, but certainly, you know, they've lucked into whatever it is here. And again, they may have lucked into this amazing run that they have possible here with Kofi Kingston.
But I mean, look at how many times it's like almost Vince McMahon's own stubbornness gets in his way. He changed the winner of last year's WrestleMania because what he was pushing forth didn't work. You had supposedly an Undertaker retirement match a year before that. It didn't end up being so. You had he was supposed to lead towards Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins gets hurt. They pivoted to Triple H. That's okay. But then you had 2 WrestleManias in a row where Daniel Bryan got forced into the main event. And there are still some people that believe that that was a beautifully crafted storyline. It was not. If you ever read his book, he's pretty clear about that. And the Seth Rollins thing with Lesnar and Reigns too. This one's one that required some help along the way, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Hey, I'll put it like this. I was in a bind at one point on this podcast when Rob McCarron left. I said, hey, Alex, you want to fill in 1 week? You were awesome. You're here 2.5, 3 years later. Sometimes happy accidents end up working. But man, when that is the recurring theme for some of your most memorable storylines over the last several years, it's wild, man.
Yeah.
Charlotte cuts a promo about Becky Lynch taking her spot. Not a lot here. Backstage, Kofi offers AJ and Jeff Hardy a pancake branch. I'm ready for the pancakes to go, Alex.
I am too, but I thought this use of them was very clever. Some people offer an olive branch. Here's a pancake branch. I was like, okay, fine. You get one. That's your one. Now get out. But okay, this is fine. It's interesting. I question the method of using this 6-man tag to determine the opponent for Bryan at Fastlane. Like, what if Bryan gets the pin? Does he not defend the match? Does he not defend the title of Fastlane? It's a very odd way of like basically, well, we'll find out tonight after the 6-man tag. Okay. Seems kind of odd.
I do think at some point over the next couple of weeks, like Daniel Bryan maybe dismisses Kofi a little bit over the pancake thing, and Kofi gets real serious with him.
Yeah.
And shows how much this means. I loved New Day's interview backstage. They were funny and entertaining and serious all at the same time.
This is peak New Day.
This was really good stuff. Xavier Woods says this was not a week in the making. This was 11 years in the making. And I still see naysayers that are like, he's been a mid-card jobber for 10 years. Like, my God, guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin was a mid-card jobber.
Yeah.
A mid-card guy for his entire career until he wasn't anymore. Now, I'm not saying Kofi Kingston is Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it happens with a lot of people.
He proves in this past week that you give him the ball, let him run with it. And honestly, I feel like you could do that with 70% of the guys you got on the roster. If you said, okay, tonight we're going to give you the opportunity to make yourself look like $1 million, are you going to do it? And they would. They'd be able to, because guess what? They're professionals. A lot of it is just like what they're being allowed to do. They allowed Kofi Kingston to make himself a star over the past 7 days, and he did.
There was some Justin Smollett shade thrown here. I thought that was, whoo, boy, that line was, that's as, no pun intended, as big of a burn as you can really throw on. Big E says, Kofi's been around here longer than Empire's been on the air, and they've done some crazy things to keep that interesting. I was like, okay. Well played. Well played.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan cut an awesome promo and then said that nobody in the ring will take him on at Fastlane because he beat them all at Elimination Chamber, which did kind of enhance the surprise for me at the end of this, because I was like, oh, so it's going to be somebody else. He's not requesting, he's telling us, is what I thought.
That's what I thought too. And I thought they were going to do a Daniel Bryan one-off opponent at Fastlane, and then Kofi was going to figure out a way to earn the match at Mania, because now we'll talk about this. Now that we're going to get, hashtag Kofi Fastlane, I don't know if hashtag Kofi Mania is a thing that can also happen. We'll see.
6-man tag was pretty good. Bryan wanted no parts of Kofi Kingston. Great story told in that.
Good.
I loved that.
Loved it.
Kofi ends up eating 2 sing bombs, one before and one after the commercial. Randy Orton's like, you beat me, but I'm getting some back here.
Yeah.
Tom Phillips brought up the irony of Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan working together in New Orleans. Great touch from Tom Phillips.
Listen, continuity, especially when you can go like, hey, there's a callback here from like 5 years ago, and everyone, basically everyone at least knows that reference, and that's great. Let make us think that you guys are as much of a historian as we bunch of dorks are.
So Styles and Bryan get the big tag. Styles runs wild, gets an Uchi-Goroshi, and applies the calf crusher. We didn't see a Hardy twist of fate on Joe. Orton doesn't hit an RKO. He just slides Jeff Hardy out of the ring, and Jeff Hardy bumps on that, which was great. While all this goes on, Styles gets put in the label lock, but gets to the ropes. A Pele kick hits on Bryan, leads to Kofi getting the tag. Kofi runs at Bryan, but gets back body dropped over the top rope onto the pile. Tope con hilo. Great spot. As is the trust fall on Rowan and Bryan. Trouble in Paradise gets the win. You saw this, and you in my mind, I was like, oh, Kofi's getting a shot sometime soon.
Yeah.
This match was about Kofi. And that's good. That's the right thing to do after the last two shows that we've seen.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is that if their plans had been to have somebody else be the person who gets the match at Fastlane, and we'll see if Kofi gets the match at Mania, there's no way you can have Shane McMahon come out at the end and go, all right, pretty great job, everybody. Everyone's Kofi, Kofi, Kofi. And Daniel Bryan, your opponent at Fastlane is going to be Rey Mysterio. Like that never would have worked. Like there's no way they could have possibly done it. They had to do it this way if they were going to have Shane announce it live in front of everybody chanting Kofi.
Although it kind of would have been funny for Shane to announce a heel and then New Jay just beat the absolute shit out of him. And then Shane goes, well, I guess it's Kofi.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
I rather enjoyed this episode of SmackDown. It was a little bit different. Not a lot of story progression to some degree because, we got three teams that we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what they're on, what's going on. So there we go. Man. Lots of stuff going on in WWE right now. Announcements galore. We had the announcement of the title match. We had the announcement of the 205 Live tournament. And now some big announcement tomorrow on NXT, which, hey, has me ready to sit in front of my TV set. Yeah. Usually I catch it after the fact, but I'm going to watch NXT as it airs this week.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. They're taping new episodes of NXT tomorrow while the episode of NXT is airing. Like there's a lot of things, like whatever announcement they make tomorrow on the show, which is pre-taped, could directly be affecting what they're taping for the next series of episodes at that same moment. There's a lot of cool things that are being that are available for them to do with their third touring brand.
We will, of course, have a news video on that, news articles. Make sure you guys go and follow Andrew and Jeremy on Twitter as well. They do a lot of great work with that. I believe this week is also the week for the Division Women's Wrestling Podcast with Kristen Ashley. She does some great work over at Diva Dirt. Make sure you guys give her a follow as well. Alex, what do you got going on this week?
Well, my daughter had 102.1 fever today. We'll see if that's any better tomorrow. Also, we're due to get about a foot of snow here in the next few days. So I might be able to watch some NXT in between all that.
I'm going to definitely take it in. I'm going to watch Fighting with My Family this week. It's been getting good reviews. I shouldn't put it over too much. They're not paying us. But Jeremy Lambert did do a review of that recently. And, of course, I had the Fightful Report podcast, the Q&A podcast. Guys, we will start doing that on Tuesdays especially. If you guys want to donate to the Super Chat and send us a question, we will be happy to answer. But, hey, you can ask all the questions you want bi-weekly over at FightfulSelect.com. I'm going to open that Q&A field up right now. My match ratings are already up there for Tier 2 subscribers. The newest Russo Reveals is up, where I blatantly ripped off WWE Photo Shoot, just showed him some photos and had him react on it. If you have preconceived notions about his stuff, I encourage you to check out the work that I did with him because we did some really, really good stuff in that filming especially. Leave us a thumbs up and subscribe. We are on podcast platforms everywhere. Thank you guys so much. We're out.